Okay, welcome back to another session of Empowering the Healer Within. My name is Peter Van Twyver. I'm your host, and it's my privilege and honor to introduce Dr. Valerie Dellocono. Val is a personal performance coach and success and prosperity consultant. Through utilization of proven principles of success and universal laws, Valerie teaches the science of achievement and art of fulfillment to help her clients and students get what they really want out of life. Her focus is on empowering the individual from the inside to create a compelling vision for themselves and bring it into reality. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here in the summit for self-care for healers, because I feel as healers, we always give so much of ourselves that sometimes we don't leave enough for ourselves. So I'm happy and privileged to be part of this today. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for being part of our journey. So you're going to be talking about overcoming fear of failure. So
that is correct.
Yeah, what's your story on that? Tell me your story.
So I have never really had a fear of failure, which I think is what's helped me to be able to achieve whatever it is that I've wanted in my life and in my career. And I never really thought anything of it until friends of mine would start saying things like, how could you do that? How could you make that change in my career or in my personal life? And they would say things like, aren't you like, what if it doesn't work out? Don't you think about that? And I always thought, no, I don't. I just, whatever it is that I want, I just go after it. I don't really think about what could happen if it doesn't happen, because I'm going to go and I'm going to do it. So I started realizing through my journey that a lot of people do have a fear of failure, and it's very insidious and it holds so many people back. So as I have been in the position that I'm in and talking to people, I have found that not just my clients, but also friends and family have this insidious fear of failure that holds them back. And I've kind of gotten a personal vendetta against it, because it literally can kill people's dreams. It can kill people's desires and excitement for life. And it can just completely cut off whatever it is that you want to do before it even starts. And just recently I had a client that told me that I can't believe I've just realized that my entire life I've never done anything because of my fear of failure. And I'm just realizing that now.
Wow. So where do you think that fear of failure comes from?
Great question. So when you talk about fear, I'm going to break this down into two separate categories. First, I want to talk about fear itself and what fear is. And then I want to talk about failure and what failure is. And when you put the two together, you realize that there really is nothing to fear. So all fear is ignorance and not knowing what's to come. You think about, I'm afraid of the dark. Why? Well, because you don't know what's in the dark. Once you turn on the lights, the fear goes away, because now you know what's there. Mm-hmm. So if fear is ignorance and not knowing, then all we need to do to eradicate fear is get the knowledge and understanding of whatever it is that we fear, so that we can overcome it, so that there is no more fear. And you can think about this in anything that you do in your life. The first time you do something, it's a little bit scary. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to expect. And as soon as you do it, now all of a sudden you say, oh yeah, I could do that. That's nothing. And that's exactly what's happening. It's that process that you're going through to learn and to understand what it is exactly that you're going to do, or that you fear. The other part of fear is that we have what's called a collective brain, a 2 million year old brain, that stems from back in the cave days, when we used to have to protect ourselves by fear, because we would be washing our clothes in the river and the saber-toothed tiger would come and drag our babies away. Or if we had to go find shelter in a cave, we never knew it was going to be in that cave that we were going to have to fight in order to be able to get that shelter. So our 2 million year old collective brain is there to protect us. And the way that it protects us is by using this fear. So it always wants us to be safe. So if we ever try anything outside of our comfort zone, that is automatically going to kick in, because the brain thinks that it's doing a good thing by protecting us. And in certain cases, absolutely it does. But in a lot of cases, it's actually holding us back and causing that fear of failure. So as long as we understand where fear is coming from, again, now we're bringing understanding to it. So now we don't have to actually fear fear. You know, the quote, you have nothing to fear but fear itself. As soon as you start bringing that learning and that understanding into the equation, that fear will fall away, because now we know what's going on, and there's no more need for that fear, because the fear actually is a tool just to learn more. So in that particular, or using that as going into what failure is. So if we take that principle and apply that to overcoming the fear of failure, then now that we know what fear is, and now we know that we need to understand what we fear in order to eradicate that fear, we can talk about failure and what failure really is. So many people put such a horrible, heavy, emotional attachment to the word failure. But when you look up what it actually means in the dictionary, all it means is a lack of success. That's it. If you look it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it literally says a lack of success, which then begs the question, well, what is success? So if you look up the word success in the dictionary, success means achieving an aim or purpose. So if you put those two together, all failure is the lack of achieving an aim or purpose. That's all it is. When you take away all of the emotional components, that's really all that you're talking about. And we know as healthcare professionals that fear, that emotion of fear, always makes things worse. And once you know what's going on, and it, you know, if you have a pain, what's a pain? The first thing we think of is, oh my gosh, it's cancer. As soon as you find out, no, it's not cancer, it's a strain, it's a muscle spasm, all of a sudden that all of your pain levels can go from a 9 to a 2 without having any sort of care except the education that no, it's not cancer, because your fear is so emotional. And when it goes away, it takes all that with it. So when we talk about failure, it's the same type of thing. We have this incredible emotional attachment to it. And once we understand all that it is a lack of achieving your aim or purpose, all of that can fall away. Because when we understand that, then you can start looking at failure for what it really is. And if you think about failure and practice, there's really no difference between the two. Because if you think about failure, a lack of achieving something that you wanted to do, think about babies when they first start to walk. Every time they take a step and fall down, they fail based on the definition, right? But is there anything wrong with that? Or are they a massive failure and they should never bother walking because they just keep failing?
That's how we learn to pick ourselves up.
Absolutely. That's how we learn to pick ourselves up. So when you do not achieve your aim or purpose, you can either choose to cast it aside and just forget it. You know, that baby could just say, you know what, I'm not really good at this walking thing. I'm just going to kind of crawl around for the rest of my life. Or the baby can say, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this again. And I'm going to get up and do this again because I need to walk. I want to walk. It's an innate thing. So if we look at failure for what it is, it's a lack of achieving an aim or purpose. That's all it is. If you go to do something, if you go to ride a bike, if you go to shoot a basketball and you miss, those are all failures. That's all it is. When you look at failure, all you're doing is practicing and learning whatever you need to learn from that particular time that you did it, to be able to apply whatever you learned to do it again better next time, to become even wiser, to become even stronger, to know all the ways to not do it. Just like Thomas Edison, 10,000 tries to get the filament to make the incandescent light bulb. What would have happened if he had stopped at 9,000? What happened if he stopped after one and said, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore. I fear failure and being a laughing stock of the inventor community. We would still be with kerosene lamps. Look at Walt Disney, who had to go to 300 banks before he found somebody that would take his concept for Walt Disney World. If he had stopped at 10, 15, 20, 100, 200, he never would have, it wouldn't be the same world. We wouldn't have Disney World. But every single time these great men missed their mark, they learned from it and did it again. And when you look through the literature and the interviews, all of the great men and women all have the same exact attitude towards failure, which is celebrate it, embrace it, because there is no way to success except through failure. The only time that you can have success immediately is by pure luck, beginner's luck. So the only way for you to actually get great and be great and maximize your fullest potential and actually go for whatever it is that you desire is by failing forward. And people use that term all the time, right? There's great videos on YouTube. Will Smith has a great one. He says, fail forward, fail early, fail often. All of the great people in our history all say the same thing and have that same attitude because they know that the only way to success is through failure.
So there's no failure, only feedback.
That is correct. That is correct. And when you say that, it's the thing that I like to discern is that it's not that there's no failure, right? It is failure based on the definition, but it's not a negative thing. It's actually a positive thing. When you're failing, you're learning, you're practicing. The people that are the greatest, these amazing brain surgeons that can do these incredible things, the basketball players, the Michael Jordans, how many times have they failed in order to get where they are now? It's all practice. So there's nothing wrong with the word failure.
Mm-hmm.
So is it a failure? Sure, based on that it is. I think that the biggest issue that we have, the real failure and the tragedy of failure is truly when you just stop trying. That is the true failure.
If we accept it as failure, we say, yes, we failed, and you take it as a failure for what failure negatively means in the brain, then yes, it is a failure. So failure is really, the concept of failure to me is really a gift. Like you said, it's where we learn resiliency. I like that word.
Absolutely. Yes. Like you said, you learned, I love that. That's beautiful. I might steal that. When you're a baby and you fall down, you learn to pick yourself up. That's beautiful. In a nutshell, that's what it is. I wish that we could like have a different term for failure. Like, let's just call it, oh, I practiced, right? Because practice doesn't have that negative connotation to it, you know?
So when because we're both clinicians, when we open our own private business, it's called a practice. Isn't that interesting?
Yes. And what do we do in medicine? We practice.
Mm-hmm. We practice medicine, we practice physical therapy. Yeah. We practice till we get it right.
That's right. That's right. And the more we practice, the better we get. And we cannot expect to be great at what we do or an expert at what we do unless we do a lot of practice.
Excellent.
So
that's good stuff. So do you have a technique or a meditation you'd like to share that would kind of help us get rid of the negative connotation of failure?
yes. So what I have done is come up with a technique based on how I see failure and how I've pretty much lived my life up until now. I was thinking about this. How can I take what I do, or how can I dissect how I think about it and give that to other people so that they can do the same? So everybody has probably heard, and if you haven't, I'll say it now, where focus goes, energy flows.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever you put your focus is where your energy is going to go. So if you put your focus on what's going to happen if you fail, that's where your energy is going to go. Okay. You're going to focus on, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. You get this intense fear. Fear is an emotion, a very strong emotion that drives manifestation, which is totally another conversation. But wherever you focus on and inject emotion into, strong emotion, is what is going to come to fruition. So the technique that I came up with is based on how I see things. So I want people to focus not on what could go wrong, because of course anything could go wrong. I want people to focus on exactly what it is that they want. So there's a specific item, there's a specific circumstance that people want to go for, that the fear of failure is holding them back. So
keep your eye on the prize.
Absolutely. And forget about everything else. Again, all the people that have been massively successful in their lives are the ones that have locked on like a heat-seeking missile, and that's all that they focus on, is what it is that they want. So this technique that I came up with is to specifically focus on what you want and let everything else just fall away. Because if you fill your mind and emotion with what you want, there is no more room for what you don't want.
Hmm.
The law of physics, you cannot have two thoughts or two items occupying the same space at the same time. So if you have a thought about what it is that you want and you fill your mind with that, there's no space for anything else.
Hmm.
So the
That's
technique
awesome.
that yes, so the technique that I came up with is based on Napoleon Hill, if you've heard of Think and Grow Rich, the book. It's very similar to when you want to manifest something, what the instructions are from Napoleon Hill. But I did take it and just kind of modified it a little bit for this. So the technique, I call it, is where focus goes, energy flows. So the first step is to identify the object or the circumstance that you're afraid of failing at and that you're not doing. So whether it's a career move or whether it's opening your own practice or going to talk to that person that you would like to maybe have a relationship with or get to know a little bit better, whatever it is, think about and identify that particular object and be very honest with yourself if this is something that you want, because sometimes people do get caught up with, oh, I want that, but I don't want to admit it because people might see that as shallow or people might see me as crazy. So this is something to do in the privacy of your own room, just with you, a pen and a piece of paper. So think about the circumstance, identify it, the item, and then think about what your life would be like if you actually had that object or circumstance. Envision it clearly in your mind as if it's already happened and you're living it right now. What would your life be like? How would you feel? What types of things would you be thinking? What types of people would you be hanging out with? What would the benefits be when you actually have whatever it is that you're seeking or you desire? And get that really, really clear in your mind, and then write it down in very specific detail. Then once you have it written down, you're going to read that twice a day, once when you first get up in the morning and once right before you go to sleep at night. And when you read it, you're not only going to read it, you're going to read it out loud. And while you're reading it out loud, you're going to actually, again, envision yourself living that life with that circumstance, that item, or whatever it is that you want. And you have to really imagine yourself and be there, because like I said previously, injecting that emotion into that vision or that image that you're holding in your mind is what's really going to help you lock on like that heat-seeking missile to not allow any room for any other thought.
Sounds good. Earl Nightingale had a sort of a version of that technique where he has you write it down on a index card and keep it in your pocket, and twice a day you pull it out and read it, and or more times if you want. How long would you say you need to do that for that to work? How many days?
That's a great question. And I ask myself that and what I do is I just do it until it actually happens.
Hmm.
Now I know based on Napoleon Hill, he says, read it until and do this exercise until it's memorized. So at some point, what I believe what happens is it infuses into your system so that it's always there and it's always in the back of your mind. Once it actually goes into your subconscious mind, then your subconscious mind can go ahead and do what it needs to do in order to bring it into fruition. But I just do it until.
Yeah, so you're kind of reprogramming the subconscious mind with repetition.
That's it. And you're replacing whatever that negative thought was with something so positive and so exciting that you're going to want to go for it, because now you've locked in that space. So you ostensibly now are not you've closed and locked the door to that fear of what's going to happen if it doesn't happen, because you're not allowing any space for that in your mind or in your emotional body.
Yeah, because the subconscious mind is going to want something else that's better to replace it. Otherwise, it's gonna hang on to it.
Absolutely. You can't, right? There can't be a vacuum. There's no vacuums in nature. So you if you want to replace something, you have to actually put it put it there for the subconscious mind to be able to create, because the subconscious mind is always creating, right? It doesn't shut off like a light switch.
Yeah, so using computer speak, you'd have to overwrite. You have to overwrite the previous habit or experience that was not ideal for you and rewrite it, overwrite it, and make it much better for the subconscious to take it.
Absolutely. Yep. And again, that using that emotion, the subconscious would only understands. If you think of it this way, the subconscious has a different language, and that language is emotion.
Mm,
So you have to be able to infuse your image, your imagery, and your words with the emotion in order for the subconscious to be able to take it, say, yep, I got it. Now I'm going to go out and I'm going to make it happen.
mm.
So that's a very, very important part of it.
Yeah, it is the subconscious that is the creator, the real creator. So the subconscious is the window to quantum physics and manifestation.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. Which is a totally other awesome conversation
for a different day.
for a different day. Yes. So in coming up with this technique, I also came up with a meditation, because I think the technique is great, but there may be certain people that need something a little bit more to really help lock it in. I know a lot of people really depend on creative imagery and visualization in order to be able to bring in that sense of whatever it is that they're looking for. So I also made a meditation for it. The one thing too that I wanted to just briefly touch on before we do this is, when you talk about excitement and fear, it's physiologically the exact same thing. There's no difference with what happens in your body. The same chemicals are released, right? Your heart rate gets faster, your palms may get sweaty. You may notice an increase in your respiration. It's basically the same exact thing when you're hooked up to all the different monitors, right? Your blood pressure goes up, your sympathetic system is stimulated. The only difference between fear and excitement is what goes on up here.
The filter.
Yep. Fear is not knowing what's going to happen and not having faith. Excitement is knowing exactly what's going to happen.
Hmm.
So when you think about when you're excited for something, it's usually because either you've already done it before, you know exactly what to expect, or in your mind and your emotional body, you're looking forward to it because you have something in your mind of exactly what it's going to look like, right? It's jumping out of a plane. Certain people are terrified of it, and certain people are so excited. The people that are terrified, why are people terrified? Because they think this parachute's not going to open and they're going to bounce.
Splat.
Right? People that are excited have it in their mind, this is exactly how it's going to go. The parachute's going to open. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to show my friends my video. So when you're thinking about what's the difference between fear and excitement, the only difference is what you choose to put up here, because we are the ones that are in control of what we put up here.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to touch on that before the meditation, because that's part of it.
Yeah, Deepak Chopra has a quote about faith or belief. He says it's a band-aid to cover our lack of knowledge and experience.
Love it. Love it. Very true. Very
So,
true.
so you could go either way on that. You could go with fear. You could go with excitement. It's a choice.
And why exactly, it's a choice. And why would anybody, after being educated, why would anybody want to choose fear?
It's programming.
Absolutely. Yes.
And
Yes.
that's another conversation for another day.
For another time. Yeah, you got it. So if you would like, I can take you through a guided meditation for being able to take this technique and utilize it one step further towards locking this in place.
Sounds good.
Okay, I apologize, I do not have any music, but this meditation will be up on our YouTube channel probably next week. So if anybody is interested in the full experience, they can go to our YouTube channel and utilize it there. So this is the meditation. You don't have to close your eyes, or you can. You're going to take a nice deep breath in and let it out. And feel yourself settling in, nice and calm. And see yourself walking in the woods. It's a beautiful day. You hear the soft sounds, the birds chirping, the leaves crunching under your feet. And as you walk through the woods, you notice that the woods are ending and you come to a clearing at the edge of a canyon. And on the other side of the canyon, you can see your life just the way it would be when you had the object or the circumstance you desire, but are being held back by the fear of failure. As you leave the woods and walk closer to the edge of the canyon, you realize that you are being weighed down by a very heavy vest you are wearing. A vest made of the heaviest lead you can possibly imagine. The vest is making it hard to walk. It's weighing you down so much that you have to fight for every step you take against the oppressive weight that's holding you down. As you near the edge of the canyon, something incredible happens. You unzipper the vest and let it fall to the ground at your feet. As you let it go, you feel yourself being lifted up by an invisible, loving, comforting force that transports you safely and without effort to the other side of the canyon. You feel completely safe and supported as this force draws you to the opposite side where your new life awaits you. Your new life, where the object or circumstance you eagerly desired is waiting for you. The invisible force pulls you closer and closer to the life you envision. And as you draw nearer and nearer to the opposite side of the canyon, you are filled with an undeniable feeling of excitement, anticipation, and eager desire to transition into your new life that awaits you. The life you've envisioned with the object or circumstance of your desire having come into reality. As the invisible force gently and lovingly delivers you safely to the opposite side of the canyon, you realize you are free to step into your life where your desired object or circumstance awaits. As you walk into your new circumstance, something incredible happens again. The other side of the canyon from which you came completely fades away, taking with it the heavy lead vest that had been weighing you down. Never looking back, you know this to be true with absolute certainty at the depth of your soul. As you take a deep breath of delight and joy, you step over the threshold into your exciting life that eagerly awaits your arrival.
Yeah, I didn't want to come back from that one. So I had this, so I get to the edge of the canyon, right? And I had this, it's like I stepped off and I had this Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade thing where, boom, I landed on something. There's nothing there. I can't see anything, but I landed on solid, something solid, right? I'm like, oh, thank God. But it was the
Yeah.
scary part was taking that first step off the cliff, you know?
Yes. Yes, I do know. I think that hits it in the perfect nutshell is it's taking that first step.
Hmm.
Yep.
It's
And if
like
you take that step, yeah.
it's like jumping out of the plane. You're, you know, there's a parachute there, but there's nothing underneath you, or so you think, you know, and you take that step and boom, there's something there. It's like, oh,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
gotta have that faith.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer that whenever you're creating whatever it is that you want in life, you have to pick up your foot and you have to take that first step in order for that solid surface to come underneath you so that you can take the next step. You have to take that step within that faith and that knowing that there's going to be something there. Or, you know, in this particular case of this guided meditation, that there is a force, a safe force that is going to help bring you to where it is that you want to go. But you have to have that faith and just take that first step, or take that leap, take that jump off the cliff.
Yeah, someone has a quote, the universe favors the bold, or something like that. You know, if you
Absolutely.
if you hide in your cave, you know, you're never going to reach the endpoint that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Easy to say, tough to do. What do you have an action step to help people kind of, what would help people get to take that step off the cliff where there might be something there might not be, there is something there, but
Yeah, so that's another great question. And I think it really, the action step to take is just pick one thing. Pick one thing that you can do to get started today. That's it. Just one little thing. It doesn't have to be a monumental, life-changing thing. Just one tiny little thing. If it's something where you want to change your career, maybe the one thing that you can do today is go online and research exactly what that career is. Go on LinkedIn, reach out to somebody that's in the career that it is that you want to change to. If it's somebody that you want to go talk to that you've never talked to before, if you see somebody and you say, "Oh, I'd like to get to know them a little bit better," just do it. Just go up to them and say, "Hey, how's it going?" That's it. That's all it takes. I mean, we say, "Hey, how's it going?" to, you know, everybody every day. There's nothing different about doing that, but it's really just picking one small thing and just doing it.
so it's
Just have that discipline.
making that choice. I choose to make that change. So you're setting an intention.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Then there's action,
Exactly it.
and like you said, infuse it with emotion, like a 5-year-old child on Christmas Day waiting to open presents. You know, there's so much energy there. You wish you could bottle it.
Absolutely. Yes. So when you're doing your one little thing, use your meditation, or use your technique where focus goes, energy flows. And as you're going to do that, just infuse in your mind's eye that what it looks like when you now have it.
Hmm.
But the other thing too is that when you do one action and then you stop and you assess, it's going to help you do the next thing, because that's also what builds confidence, right? Is giving yourself a directive and then following it.
Hmm.
And the more you build your confidence, yeah, the easier it gets. And then you can start doing a little bit more and building on it, right? Like we always say, it's just a penny, but even a penny adds up. At the end of a year, if you saved a penny a day, you got $3.56, right? What about at the end of 10 years? You know, even pennies add up.
Hmm.
So it's the same thing. You do a little bit today, do a little bit tomorrow, do a little bit the next day. Just pick one little thing. That's all you have to do. One little thing every day can change your life.
Awesome. Well, how can people contact you? What's your best contact information if they have any questions about this session, if they want to ask you more?
Sure. So we have our website, livingfullvolume.com. So they can reach us that way. My email is Valerie, Valerie, at livingfullvolume.com. We also have our YouTube channel, which is the same name, Living Full Volume. And people can, if they like videos, they can go to the comments and leave a comment. We're always looking at our comments as well.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So Valerie, thank you. Thank you for sharing your pearls of wisdom. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And I'd also like to thank our audience for being part of our journey as well. And until next time, be well.